There is more information about sex today than ever before. Courses, techniques, tutorials, books, platforms. And yet, intimacy still feels fragile for many people. So what is missing? In today's episode of 34O, I'm joined by Lauren Brim, author, educator, and embodiment teacher, whose work center around female pleasure, self-awareness, and sexual sovereignty. But this conversation is not about technique. It's about what must shift inside us before intimacy changes outside us. We explore the gap between knowledge and lived connection, between performance and presence, between empowerment as a concept and embodiment as an experience. This is a conversation about evolution, about what has to change in us before we can truly teach, lead, or love. Welcome to 34O, and welcome, Lauren. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. That was so beautiful.
So, how are you landing in your body today?
Well, I'm very much in my body and really enjoyed your words. I felt very moved by what you said about love, and I'm excited to go deeper with you.
Thank you. No, I'm looking forward to this too. So I want to, maybe just start with the first question around, before you could teach sexuality and female pleasure, what had to change in you personally?
Well, I can remember the moment where I realized I wanted to teach sexuality, and it was about maybe 12, 13 years ago, and I had been doing a lot of searching around my sexuality, uncovering parts of me, desires that I had maybe tried to hide away. I was doing a lot of exploring of sex and my own relationship to it. And as more acceptance was coming and I was having and experiencing more pleasure with sex, I remember speaking to another sexual teacher, an intimacy teacher, and I realized, oh, wow, I have so much to say now because I've done so much exploration and had so many epiphanies. I was writing my first book on sex at the time and just telling stories from my own life, but also sharing research that I was doing. And I realized, oh, wow, I really have a lot to say, and I want to help people on this journey because it had been such a challenging journey for me that I felt I had a lot to share. So I think you have to do the personal work. It's not something you can just read in a book. You've got to show up and work through the shadows that come up and the stories. And when you find more pleasure, it's something you got to talk about. You want to share.
Thank you for sharing. It's beautiful. So in all of that, though, was there something you had to unlearn in that process?
I think for me, I grew up with Christianity, and so there was all of these shouldn'ts around sex, and sex was supposed to be with my husband after marriage with one man for the rest of my life. And so as I was starting to explore sex, it was like, oh no, I've had sex with 2 people. Oh no, 3. Oh no, 4. I still haven't found my husband yet. Like there was so much fear and stress around it. And yet there was also a gift in it because while I had a lot of fear, I think there was also so much fear. So the religious piece was telling me what you're doing is wrong and this is all wrong. And then there was a lot of fear just around the opposite sex in general and fear around sex, fear around men, fear around my own sexual power and intensity, I'm sure, because I had my first orgasm at quite a young age. And at the same time, there was this gift because that fear of the outside world sort of kept my sexuality in this very private space of my masturbation and my masturbation fantasies. So in a way, when I finally was ready to emerge into the world and unlearned those things, I had this really beautiful, developed, erotic self and understanding of myself that I could share with others.
So I mean, it sounds like you had a bit of both, like shame, performance, and conditioning around sex before you sort of worked on yourself in that case, I guess.
Yes. And I think, like so many people, it's not necessarily that someone's standing over you saying, this is very bad. It's more something you pick up from the culture.
Yeah.
You're like a fish swimming in the water, and all in the water are these messages of don't be too sexual, or you'll be slutty, and don't give it up too quick, or no one will want you, um, and no one's even calling your body parts by any name. So you don't even know what a vulva is, or your
Mm.
labia or clitoris are, and you're just in the dark. And there's the ignorance piece as well. There's the lack of modeling around sex. We see in movies like, oh, they just fall into bed and everyone's happy and blissful, and the woman rolls over in her bra at the end with the sheet over her, and back in the day, they'd have a cigarette, and like it was. So there was so many missing pieces. It wasn't just the weight of the shame. It was a lot of things, I think.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, like today, we live in a time where I think sexual education, if you will, is more accessible than ever for a lot of people. Yet I still also see a lot of couples struggle with both like desire, polarity, even emotional safety. Why do you think that is?
Ooh, such a big question. Well, sex education is out there, but it doesn't mean that everyone is accessing it. And I think even with sexual education and terminology for things. I mean, couples have terminologies. Men know where the clitoris is now. I mean, there's so much information out there, but I think what I see with couples, and I've done a lot of work with couples in this last decade, is even couples that have been married for decades sometimes can't talk about sex. They don't
Mm.
know how. They don't know how to talk about their desires. They assume their partner's going to reject them for who they are sexually because they've never really accepted themselves sexually. So of course they would assume the rejection. And then there is often some rejection. They propose something to a partner and they go, "Ew, I don't want that." And then they go, "Yep, never going to try again." So they
Yeah.
like just that whole how we talk about sex and who we are. And I had this dream last night, and I was, like just sharing, or I was masturbating and I was thinking about this, like sharing their erotic self with their partner, talking during sex and letting your partner know what's working, sharing the spiritual, emotional, the physical aspects of sex. Couples don't do this. So I feel education gives you language, but we need modeling and permission to have those conversations in couple to really allow sex to blossom.
So what do you think an individual needs to do then to get to that point? Because now we're
Hmm.
talking about the couple. I think, I mean, there are two people normally in a relationship. So,
Yeah, I believe masturbation is one of the most powerful tools that we have. I think it's a shame that people reach for porn so quickly, because what we think about when we masturbate is really such a gift. It's a mirror into these deep inner places, and so when we feel sexual urges and we masturbate, and we don't just grab a vibrator or turn on some porn. I mean, there's nothing wrong with those things, and everyone uses them, and I use them at times, but the majority of your self-pleasuring should be really seeing like what turns me on, who am I in the fantasy? If I reach a plateau with my pleasure, where do I go in my mind that I find more pleasure? And then you start to learn about yourself sexually. Like, wow, I get really aroused at the thought that someone might watch me, or I get really aroused at feeling like my partner wants to marry me and they're choosing me over all other women or men. Like you find like, and then you know yourself. And I talk about it like making a path in the woods. You know, if you
Mm.
walk one time, you won't find that path. But if you regularly journey down those paths of arousal, you bring that to your sexual relationships, and you know that path so well that there's very little inhibition in sharing that with a partner. Like I know I have an orgasm if I get in this position, or I think about this thing, or I kiss my partner in this way, because I know myself so well. So I think we have to bring that deep self awareness and knowingness and acceptance and that erotic map that we've drawn up ourselves to our partnership, and then share that with a partner, and when we share, they'll share, and then it just keeps growing how much we're able to share and how much we're able to experience together.
Oh, that's beautiful. And so, what, do you see there are things that couple are misunderstanding, or what do you see they misunderstand the most, if you will, between themselves?
Couples misunderstand the most. I think a lot of I think a lot of women don't in couple really don't accept just how sexual they are. Their sexuality is, we talk about male sexuality being performative to, please the woman, and like the dick has to get hard and they have to last a certain amount of time, and they have to show up in this way. And I think a lot of women use sex to get a man. They perform it in a way to get the man, and then you hear a lot of couples share, well, after we're married or living together or have children, her sexuality just seemed to disappear.
Mm.
And women will blame this a lot on, like, well, I had a baby, like you can't expect me to be sexual, like I had a baby. And I say, well, some women are the most sexual and sensitive in their pregnancy. I mean, you are so engorged with blood in your pelvic floor.
Mhm.
It can be one of the best times in your sex life ever. And then after you have a baby, like your sexual life, your erotic self, it shouldn't go anywhere. So to me, one of the things reasons I think couples struggle is because in our societies, in our culture, we have not given women permission to be sexual and to own their
Mm.
sexuality and to claim their sexuality. And then the men are disappointed that the women's sexuality was really sort of performative, and now it's gone. And so now she's having sex just to kind of keep the marriage alive, and she has never really explored that deep well of her erotic self. And one could say, well, it's not her fault in a society that shames female sexuality.
I see that a lot, and I think just on this thing with women, I see what I heard from a lot of women is that they are almost they're actually very performative too, right? We see that men wants to perform, but I think women are too, in the sense that whenever they start initiating sex, that it needs to end with the man coming, because if she's not making the man come, she's not going to be good enough or something like that, right? Whilst I think it's much more worthy if you remove sort of the orgasm from the equation from both sides, and you just focus on the intimacy element and having sex without sort of a goal. You normally actually end up with more orgasms for both parties in that sense, right? But then removing that, I
Or at
think, yeah,
least, yeah, or at least more pleasure. And if a
exactly,
woman,
and more, yeah.
yeah, if sex has to be the man coming, or, if it has to look a certain way, then, and she really is too tired, raising children and being up
Yeah.
and working and all of this, that, or, even getting older. And then, women will say, oh, well, now it's the perimenopause. Now it's the menopause. Like we can always have an excuse, but what the science shows is that we're sexual from birth to death. We have
Yeah.
the ability to lubricate, to engorge. Like we are designed to have sex into our, Masters and Johnson research into our 70s and 80s. If we keep having it, if you use it, you don't lose it, and all the muscles and the lubrication and the mechanism works. But people don't want to because they don't have that connection with that. I say
And
it's like a flame. Yeah, it's like a fire. And if someone's put that out, because it's not safe to be your sexual self and be a sexual woman, then you are just making excuses. And then I find that the male partner, and again, right now we're talking about sort of a female male couple, and
I mean, it can be either, but I mean, it doesn't matter.
yeah, but
Yeah.
and I do work with couples where it's the woman who's longing for sex and it's the man who doesn't have the desire, and the
Mm.
woman is so hurt by this and feels so rejected by her partner. And I mean, it's a painful thing to desire your partner sexually and have them not meet you and match you and equally desire you. And I think for men, what I've seen is that they have a lot of secrets around their sexuality. And so, where there's a lot of secrecy, there's a lot of shame, there's using porn or flirting with women or watching things, and then they're not able to show up and really be in that deep presence with a woman because they are hiding something and maybe saying, oh, well, she's not having sex with me. So, or creating excuses for it. So I think both men and women have their own work to do to show up and really
I
create sex in a beautiful way with each other.
I concur on that completely. I mean, I think from a male point of view, I think a lot of guys are trained to not talk about emotions, where if you add like sexual desire within that element, because it's sort of something that you're not supposed to talk about, and it's a weakness if you do talk about it. And
Mhm.
you also add the layer of shame on top of that, right? That sex can be very shameful, or even talking about it in that sense. So
Mhm.
I see it more as a strength if you're able to open up and actually talk about just being vulnerable as a man, whether it's about your sexuality or just what you feel. I think it's sort of a starting point, and that I think that's the next question I had for you here. Sort of, if you think about safety in a relationship or as a foundation of desire, I think both. How do you feel physical and emotional safety is out of relevancy for desire?
Oh, well, it's a huge part of the equation. When we look at the nervous system, many activities are they're a parasympathetic, rest, digest, heal, sleep, eat, all of that. Netflix and chill, parasympathetic,
Yeah,
sympathetic, fight or flight, survive, drive in traffic, get everybody out the door, operate in a competitive workplace. Sex is a place where they cross over, where they're both present for
yeah,
orgasm. And this I find so fascinating. So you have to have safety, you have to have the parasympathetic function, and you also have to have the sympathetic, the novelty, the I don't know what's going to happen, that little bit of fear and the not knowing. You need both for sex. And so for some people, it's creating and allowing more of the sympathetic, allowing her to be the slut, allowing him to say, I want the man to say, I want you to grab my nipples or grab my balls, or like really say what he likes and wants, and creating that excitement. Or I would telling her his fantasies. I would love to see this. That's the danger, excitement element. And for some, and again, this isn't necessarily women and men. Let's take a man. A man might need safety and saying, like, I need to know, I feel like I'm falling in love with you, and I need to know, like, if this is a place I can keep letting go, and how you feel about me. And creating that safety is going to be different for everyone. And for some, it's not something that we can even communicate to our partner. We might try. Sometimes I always think it's a good way to kind of test it. Like, if you communicate something to your partner and you get that ease and that peace, it's like, oh, that was a communication thing. That was something I needed to ask for. honey, can you please do this when you come in the house? It really makes me feel like loved when you kiss me as soon as you get in instead of, going for the kitchen or whatever. But if we communicate what we need and we still feel an imbalance or a lack of peace, then that's really some internal work we need to do. And
Yeah.
so, in this case, your partner might be giving you all the safety in the world. They might be giving you all the novelty in the world. And I see this with couples. You have, the man like buying all the sex toys or, doing all of the oming and creating and saying, well, no sex, no pressure. And it's like years have gone by and he's saying, no pressure, no pressure. Meanwhile, like all this, rage and sadness and everything is brewing. And in that case, it's like it's not about the partner. It's up to that individual to do the work. And where do I create safety? And what do I need to look at in my past where maybe men weren't safe or women weren't safe or sex wasn't safe? And how do I soothe that part of myself? Or how do I give myself permission to go to those dangerous, forbidden, erotic places? Because that's where your orgasm comes from. And so if you're afraid of that and you're not willing to, you've got to explore both to really find great pleasure with sex.
I agree on that. I think, I mean, in the Western world, I would say that having a sex is probably the time when people are present, right? Or can be present.
Yeah, I think
It's a
for some
practice.
people, it feels so good to have sex because they come back into their bodies and they're
Yeah.
not thinking so much. And maybe men experience this more than women, but yeah, it can be. And for some people, it's not. Sex is not
Yeah.
that place where they let go of their stress and even though we say, well, sex is so good for you, it's good for your physical health, it reduces, heart disease and
Yeah.
cancer and all these things, and it builds your immunity and it strengthens your relationship. And it's like, yeah, but no thanks. Some people are still a no thanks, even to all of that. And so the question is, wow, like I would say, well, let's look at all the stories that are buried within you that are affecting either your relationship with your body, your relationship
Mm.
to sexuality, or your relationship to the sex that you want to have sex with. So either men or women. And if you can start to look at those, then you can start to want to come to sex as a place to renew and a place to restore and a place to get out of your head and be in your body. And then it
Mm.
becomes, this is why the sages and people for thousands of years have said, sex is a spiritual tool. And
I
it,
agree completely.
yeah, and we can explore these deeply human, animal, physical sides of ourselves, and then we can also explore this incredible spiritual, divine, heart-opening place through this same thing. It's fascinating.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And I mean, I think when I think about female pleasure today, I think it's often framed as sort of empowerment in one way. But sometimes it still feels performative, just in a different way, if you will. So how do we move beyond performance into true embodiment when it comes to female pleasure, do you think?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think empowerment is an important component, like in a woman, but it can't be the star of the show, or it can't be because there's a certain, like, I'm empowered, no one can hurt me, I'm going to state my boundaries, but then there's the other side of the feminine, which is soft and receptive and is designed to experience all this pleasure through being penetrated and opening and letting go and surrendering. And so I think a lot of good has come from empowerment and women buying sex toys and saying, well, this is how I have, an orgasm, is externally. But I would also invite those women like into the next level, which is what happens when you drop being in power? What happens when you leave the sex toy in the other room and you start to explore all of these deeper spaces inside of yourself and this more vulnerable space? And obviously you have to do that with someone who has shown to be safe. And you have to find a partner who's safe. You have to have found safety within yourself, or you're going to keep drawing in partners who who aren't safe. But once you find that, then that's a time and a place to explore and not just get locked into, well, this is what sex is. I think if we maintain curiosity with sex, we know that we're never done learning. Just like I always say, no one will ever write the last song. Like, well, that's it. All the songs have been written. We're done. Creativity is an infinite well, and our sexual center is our creative center, which means our sexuality is going to be evolving for our entire human experience, and humanity is evolving in sex. And if you hear some people talking about what sex will look like, 1,000 years from now or whatever, it's going to be so different. And it's fascinating time to be exploring it because, we are moving like at such a rapid pace from where the information our mothers had. I mean, even just watching a movie from the early 2000s and how women were portrayed and sex is portrayed. Like, I sometimes go, oh my gosh, like I cannot believe that was just 20 years ago. Like, it's just shocking. And then how much has changed in the last decade and how the sexual scripts are changing. And I mean, we live at such a fascinating time. So I think women, they have to just do their own exploring, and empowerment and boundaries will only get you so far. So if you want a really deep relationship with your sexuality that no one can take from you, that aging can't take from you, that having babies can't take from you, that having a partner that, isn't necessarily giving you what you need, that's internal work that you can do. That's
I see that for sure. And I think, if you think about embodied pleasure versus performative pleasure, how do you compare those two?
Well, I think you can only be in your body if you really get to know your body. And I think there's a reason, one of my early body mind medicine teachers, in his class that he had been doing for decades, the first thing they would have people do is stand in front of a mirror naked in a room of people and just describe their body. Just go through the body. Okay, I have blonde hair. I have, this large forehead. I have these green eyes, and we just make our way down through the body and just reclaim the body, own it. It's almost like some people are walking around so in their heads, like they smack their arm into something and they don't even feel it. They're really not in their bodies. So I think there's a lot of reasons we're not in the body. I think trauma obviously plays a big role in that. I think going into puberty, and if there are certain dangers in the environment, or if you are developing breasts and you're getting attention, or your mother, she was molested and she's passing down these stories of like, it's not safe to be a sexual woman or have breasts. Like, we start to withdraw from our bodies from that. I think not naming the parts of our bodies is really important. I have taught my children the names of their genitals, vulva, vagina, penis, testicles. We have to have names for things or they're invisible. So I think part of embodying is naming it and looking at the body. There's a lot of work that's been done over the years with mirrors, women just holding up a mirror to their vulva and vagina and looking at it. And the last piece is touching it. I found in working with women, especially in the postpartum realm, that some women had never put a finger inside of their own vagina. And this was shocking to me, like shocking. And then I realized, women are carrying this message that only a man or a doctor is allowed to touch your vagina. And if you go to I lived in Mexico for a little bit, and I saw that even tampons there, they all had inserters. Like, you couldn't put your finger in your own vagina to insert something. And I think that this has been part of the control of women, is to tell them, you can't touch your own bodies. And yet we know little boys are going to touch their penis and they're going to explore pleasure and how from a very early age. And not that, little girls all start masturbating or touching themselves at the same time, but there's this this unspoken message of, oh, you shouldn't touch yourself, you shouldn't penetrate yourself, only a man does that. And so I think there's more embodiment when we touch the tissue. And this is a
Yeah.
beautiful part of Tantra, is that they have women and or their partners, touch them in a very conscious way where they can feel the front wall of the vagina and the side walls of the vagina and the perineum, and you're feeling, and then you feel how they change when you get aroused and engorged and how they feel after an orgasm. And I think all of this increases your brain's communication with all the parts of your body. And this is going to bring so much more sensation with sex that you can't be performative when you're actually in your body and you know what the parts are and you've masturbated for 10,000 hours and you are an expert on your body. Like, you need to be the expert on your body. So when you go into sex, like, there's no mystery or confusion. And then, you're just in your body.
It's beautiful. And I think for me, it's sort of the body never lies in my mind, right? And I think the body actually, more or less everybody is sort of capable of having an orgasm. And in a lot of ways, it's sort of the mind that controls the body in that sense and sort of limits those things, right? And I think it's about actually how do you stay more present and not stop being in the past or in the future, if you will, right? And I think that's sort of... I had a conversation the other day with a woman, and she said, like, she gave her body away quite easily, and then when she had sex, and then she was thinking about maybe okay, as soon as my partner is done, it's going to be over, or I'm doing writing something in the head or something like that, right, whilst having sex. But then you're not there in the mind, you're not present in the moment, you're somewhere else.
Right. And you'll hear this, like, someone will say, oh, I'm having sex with my partner and I'm thinking about someone at the office or a celebrity or something. And in my experience, this isn't a simple, oh, come back to your body piece. This is because there's a whole part of your sexuality that you are denying. And so it's not just, oh, let me come into my body. It's like, no, you need to really say, what about my sexuality am I not owning? And, is that you're bisexual? Is that how much you like anal play? Is that a kinky side of yourself? Is that, are you somewhere on the spectrum as far as how you express gender? Like, what is there that you need to look at, own, go, wow, this is a part of my sexuality. And the more you own that, you won't need to, like, siphon off a part of yourself in sex or, I've talked to women that when they masturbate, they're not even in their own fantasies. Like, their fantasies are another woman out there getting pleasure, or, she's watching the experience. And I say, I need you to be the star in your own fantasy. Like, you need to be the one in your, and so that disconnect, and, like, slowly kind of Masters and Johnson style, they would work with a woman who didn't have an orgasm and say, okay, have an orgasm, or didn't have an orgasm with a partner. They'd say, have an orgasm by yourself, then have an orgasm with him in the house, then have an orgasm with him in the room, then have an orgasm with him touching you. And eventually they would build this bridge to having penetrative orgasm with a partner. And so I do a similar thing with if a woman or a man is very detached or disassociated from and not in their own body, in their fantasy, or with partners. I do this with spouses. I say, tell me about your masturbation fantasies with your husband or wife. And if they say, they never make an appearance in my fantasies, then I say, well, let's start. Let's say, like, what is a really sexy fantasy that you can have with your partner, and how can you start to bring them in? And not that we're not allowing you to go and explore these other forbidden places, sex with a coworker or whatnot. But I want to see what comes up when you go into that space with a partner, and what part of you is, like, rejecting or ejecting yourself from that fantasy, and what can you own so that you can, again, create a path through the woods of pleasure with your own partner. And this, I find, enables someone to really be in their body with their partner.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because I think a lot of that is also around how you start, you start communicating with your partner. And I think it seems like communication is a key foundation in every relationship, right? And communicating about sex is sort of something people are, like we mentioned here, like these couples living together for a long time and in a marriage, they stop communicating about their needs and sex in general, and then they sort of you stop trying as a partner in that case because you will. I mean, you have fear or reaction all the time, and that just builds resentment as well all the time.
But I think a really key piece is it's not just communicating your needs, because lots of men will say, "Oh, I'm telling her my needs. I'm
Oh yeah,
telling her
yeah,
I really love sex. I'd really love sex. I'd really love a blowjob. I'd really love sex." And she's and women I find are less great at this, and especially because for women to have the safety and the space for sex, they usually need the men to show up in non-sexual ways for them to be sexual. I need you to do the dishes without me asking, and I need you to play with the children when you come home, and I need you to change a diaper and not wait for me to do it, and then I'll want to have sex with you. But right now I have so much resentment because I'm feeling so alone in the responsibilities. Men will say, I want sex, but what they're missing is that we're not, it's not just in a healthy sexual relationship, you can communicate like, I want you now. I have work in 20 minutes. Like, I need you inside of me. Like, do we have time? Let's go. Like, you can communicate what you need sexually. But the foundation of that is sharing who you are as a sexual being. And if this man is so terrified, I mean, I remember in one of my books, where I was interviewing men on what they did with sex workers, this man would pay a sex worker just because he couldn't tell his girlfriend that he liked to have his nipples played with. Like, and to me, this was so shocking because this is so, it's not like he wanted her to, put a strap on and like do him in the ass or something. Like, it was something so, to me, so simple. And I'm like, wow, you have so much shame around this aspect of yourself that you go and pay for sex with someone. So to me, the foundation of a sexual relationship is sharing our fantasies, our
yeah,
dreams, what turns us on about our partner. Like, oh my gosh, like I love your ass in those jeans. Like you just keep, or you just keep getting more and more beautiful all the time. Or you're the way you smell, the way you taste, like even your sweat smells good to me. Like I had this dream last night that we were, having sex and, such and such happened. Like, and then waiting and letting her respond and saying, oh, wow, that kind of turns me on. Or I masturbated thinking about doing this to you. And then having, your partner go like, huh, wow, yeah, I never thought about that. And like I talk, and the way I say it to my clients is it's like taking your partner's hand and kind of like guiding them into your world. Like, let me take you into my sexual world and then have a look at all of these beautiful things. And like, does anything here excite you or turn you on? And then, and a partner might say, well, I'll never be turned on by those things, but
yeah.
they will because you invite them in and your erotic energy and your pleasure becomes their pleasure. And this is how we grow together in sex. So this is a very different conversation that's built over, in the same way that we're not supposed to have one conversation with our kids about sex,
Yeah.
just awkward birds and the bees. This is what we grew up with. One day you sit down with your kids and you say, well, you're in puberty now. So no, sex
I
is
need to
a
have the call.
conversation. Yes, that you're just having like through the days and through the weeks, and it's talking about bodies and it's talking about pleasure and responsibility and oh, you have an erection. I see that. Why don't you go, touch your penis in your room? And like it's just having these constant conversations about sex and who we are as people. And this is what's missing in a marriage. And
Yeah.
then you've got two people kind of fighting over the logistics of sex.
I mean, it's about normalizing talking about sex. I mean, whether it's with your partner or with your children, right? It's sort of, it's, I mean, in this podcast, I've been talking to so many people now, and I think, and even if I talk to people, friends or whatever, it's like, sex is probably something that everybody wants more of in general, or better quality, or I don't think anybody wants bad sex in that sense,
Yeah.
right?
No one wants bad sex, but I think there's probably more men thinking about the sex they want than women in
No, no,
some
no, but
cases.
this actually includes
Yeah.
women. A lot of
Yeah.
the women as well. I mean, even the women actually wants better sex than they might be having.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and I think that's just I want to go back to a bit what we talked about here with the parasympathetic system and everything. And
Hmm.
because I feel like what role do you feel like the nervous system regulation play in a couple, for example, when they want to increase intimacy and have better sex?
Oh, I mean, it's huge. It's everything. Like you said, the body doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And so if you have a story in your head that, oh, men just want sex, or, women are, they just are a tease, or, whatever your story is, that is going to translate to your nervous system, doing something with that. It's going to put you in a state. And if you have emotions that you haven't looked at with sex, if there's things you haven't grieved, if there's
Mm.
anger you haven't voiced, whether at a previous partner or yourself, like all of those things live in the body and affect the nervous system. And then, you hear these stories where a woman or a man is experiencing, their partner's doing everything right. They're doing all this touching and kissing and prepping and stroking, and like it's not working. And it's like, what's going on? Well, because the body, the nervous system is holding too much. There's not an authenticity. There's not a coherence.
Yeah.
They're for sex, and they're saying, well, something's not happening. Well, yeah, because there is more work to do on your nervous system, and so for some of, this is why I use the body mind approach. I don't find you can just talk your way to better sex. You have
Yeah.
to get the body involved. And so, for me and with my work, I put my hand on the diaphragm, I'm holding the cranium, I'm holding over the pelvis, all clothed, but we're just helping that being like come back into their body and release the emotions that are blocking the channels. And whether that's like the pudendal nerve or the vagus nerve or the fascia that, helps to engorge the penis or the vagina, it's opening up those channels through observing and holding, and tantra is so great for this, and sexological body work is so great for this, and somatic work is so great for this, and all of that work where we release trauma and fear and emotions, it just frees up all these highways in the body for
Yeah.
pleasure. And I love all the highways for pleasure in the body. I mean, they're so numerous that when you see them all, you're like, oh, wow, we are built for incredible amounts of pleasure. But what's going to block all that up? It's just like a bunch of traffic or trash or garbage. It's like it's blocking the flow. And so the way we get that out is we have to shake, we have to move, we have to cry, we have to be witnessed, we have to touch at our bodies and look at our bodies and love our bodies again, and own our turn on. Like I'm turned on by, little green goblins in the sky. Like you have to just own it and then be like, and I also love this, and I also love love, and I also love dick, and I love pussy, and I love it all. You just have to find what is true for you, and then you show up in your body with a regulated nervous system that can explore all of these places.
No, it's beautiful. I mean, I can just agree with you. And I think there's so much more. I think if you think about it, a lot of sex today, people are jumping straight to the genitals, for example, right? Without actually seeing the rest of the body, taking it slow, and maybe starting even from the feet up or from the cranium and go down, and taking time. Instead, we just jump straight to
Yes.
the
Well, this is
genitals.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if have you heard someone say this on your podcast that men are, Sherry Winston in Anatomy of Arousal talks about this, I think, in her book. But she says with a man, you can grab his genitals and he'll go, oh wow, and this is exciting for him. They talk about his arousal goes from the center out, whereas
Hmm.
a woman, it goes out in. So if you just grab a woman's vulva, she's gonna retract and pull back, even if she likes you. It's not
Yeah,
how
yeah.
her body's designed. So if you work out in, like the more you talk to her and tell her how beautiful she is, and just touch her hair in a certain way and touch her breasts, and then by the time you get to her genitals, she's ready to go. It's the yin yang opposite of the male, and
Yeah,
yeah.
but I can actually say that from a male point of view, I think even guys will have a better orgasm, for example, when you start going slow and warming up all of the
Hmm.
body, right? If you think about
Yeah.
how you actually can go and talk more of like a body orgasm, like a full body orgasm, when you start getting to that level and you
Hmm.
warm up the body in that sense, I think that's when you start having a lot more fun than just having A
Yeah.
ejaculative orgasm, if you will.
Oh yeah. I mean, the man has more fun and his partner has more fun. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot of women are really disappointed to have a man that can't hold his erection and let her have waves and waves of pleasure. And it's so wonderful that there's education and tools now for men to discover they can have full body orgasms. They can have non-ejaculatory orgasms. They can hold their erection and then start to see their partner have not just clitoral orgasms, but vaginal orgasms and squirting and
yeah,
cervical
anal,
orgasms and
yeah,
like
all of them.
all of them. And you only discover that when both partners can show up, for sex in without ejaculation occurring so soon. So yeah, men can do a lot of work and I work with a lot of men on this too. And if they are ejaculating too soon or too focused on that, I say, okay, well, how are you masturbating? And I usually have them stop looking at porn and start working on their Kegels and their relationship to their bodies. And sometimes there's testosterone or vasodilators and
Yeah,
things are helpful too. But the way they masturbate and sort of practice sex in their minds, like if it's very focused on ejaculation and orgasm, I think this is something we were talking about before
yeah.
the call, like versus focusing on the woman's pleasure and how that pleasure is going to feed into him and give him pleasure. Like when we take
It's
care of the
energy. Yeah, because it's energy. You're sharing the energy between your partner and yourself, and how that grows. I normally talk about this 1 + 1 is 3, right? That you actually can create so much more together, co-create so much more when you do it in the right way
Mhm.
with the right partner.
Yeah.
No, I think it. Yeah, this is a topic we could go even deeper on. I think, right? But it's we talked a lot about emotions, and I think emotional safety, I think, is one of the key things. But do you feel true pleasure for a woman, though, is that does it happen when a woman feels safe or when she feels seen by her partner?
I think, I think, I think it's neither of those things. I think a woman's pleasure, well, one of the first things I said in my first book was our orgasm is our responsibility.
Yes.
So I think this whole notion that a man is supposed to give a woman an orgasm, and yes, is there truth to that? And like with his penis, is he able to give her all this pleasure? Yes, but that's almost like later in sex. I feel the first place a woman needs to be in is owning her orgasm and where she goes in her mind or what she asks her
Hmm.
partner for or how she moves her body. And this is learned through masturbation. So a woman has to have this, and then she has to have that combination of safety and danger. So you could have the guy who's almost too nice. You might people talk about this like the super nice guy and the woman's lacking the danger, but then she goes with the dangerous bad boy and she's lacking the safety. So how do we create both? And again, I think we create both through getting rid of the shame, talking about it, but also owning our erotic self, so we can
Yeah.
show up and have that element of danger and playing with power and playing and that intensity that makes you go like, oh wow, like I am awake, like fully awake right now and experiencing this and that that danger and novelty. I remember working with a woman that came with her partner struggling to have orgasms. The man is this
Yeah.
great lover and is like doing everything right. And she was just not able to have them. And so they ended up using a sex toy and having him penetrate her at the same time. And where, when they left me, that was kind of, they were happy enough with where they got to, which is pretty common with couples. But what was interesting about her story to me is that she did have an orgasm with a man one time. And it was like behind her house, standing up. A man had pushed her against the wall or something, and she had a penetrative orgasm. And so I said, wow, like that's a really exciting, kind of dangerous experience. Like explore that more. who are you in that fantasy? What are some themes around that are exciting? And how can your partner do that? And how can you be that woman in your own body? You're the woman who gets fucked on a wall in the backyard. Like,
Yeah,
what do you have to own about yourself so you can have that more?
that's a very fun way to look at it, right? Because I mean, it might be the whole thing with the risk of getting caught, for example, right? That if you do it outside against the wall of a house, I mean, that can be exciting for a lot of people.
And with like the bad boy. And so I think
Yeah,
at the same time that we're in a culture where we're telling men like, the old model doesn't work. You can't just like, take a woman's clothes off and stick your penis in anymore. There is consent and conversations and do you want this and does this feel good? And there's all of that, but we also don't want men castrated and feminized. We want a man to show up and like and have his male desire and that intensity. And I think she in that fantasy, she had both that wild masculine that just took
hmm,
her, and she also had the part of her that could be taken.
yeah,
And I work with a lot of women that it's like they can barely even say the words of like I'm a slut or I'm like just exploring that aspect of themselves is so scary, and they hold back that, and therefore they hold back like the
yeah.
danger of it all, and that's really important for sex.
I agree on that, and I think, I mean, in all earnest, I think a lot of guys today feel so confused around sex or what they can do or their own masculinity. I would say, right? It's actually going down to that because
Yeah.
they have to have all this consent and be more soft in a almost negative way, I guess. Whilst you have on the other spectrum, you have more this macho element, right? But I think for me, it's much more masculinity is much more about holding and direction and being that sort of assertive guy, not being forceful or pushing down women. Is actually about holding women and being much more focused on the direction and showing strength that way. I think is sort of a healthy way of masculinity, not just going into that softness and all that, but having that assertiveness. I think
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
masculinity in that sense.
Assertiveness, leadership, and what is
Yeah,
good leadership, but really knowing the needs of those you're leading and saying, like, we're doing this and voicing all that desire. I mean, women
yeah,
love to hear how much they're desired, their bodies, their smell, their taste, their everything. I mean, you cannot tell a woman enough how beautiful she is. And this is so powerful. And so I think if men are retracting, going, oh well, I'm going to be rejected by women or women hate men, it's like no, women want strong male leaders that care about their needs, care about their
yeah.
safety, and are going to fuck their brains out. Like they want a big hard cock to give them pleasure, and like they
Of
want a
course.
man and his muscles and his hair and his smell and like and so, yeah, men should not forget that women desire them and desire sex with them so much. And this Me Too movement, this movement towards consent, it isn't gonna make it, it doesn't make them bad or wrong for desiring women. It makes it right. It's just a new, I mean, it is very sexy to hear how men now will say right before they kiss you, like, can I kiss you? I mean, I think this is so beautiful. And when I
Yeah.
was younger, like men didn't ask you this, they just kissed you. And like I think it's brought something really beautiful to sex. But I do hear a lot of men going, oh, well, this is the society now. Like, I just,
I
and
see.
it's like,
I see that a
place
lot
for my
too.
sex. It's like, no, 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 we need it because more women are waking up to their sexuality, and they need the women that desire men need men who are ready to meet them in that place of wanting and owning their sexuality, and they want to be met.
And I think, I mean, if you think about sex, I think the foreplay to sex starts even way before the bedroom, right? For me, it sort of starts with, I mean, yes, we mentioned here doing the vacuum cleaning or doing the laundry or something like that. But I think even more so, it might be just walking around and then whisper in the ear that, hey, think about what we can do later. And yes, planting seeds like that, I think is sort of quite a
Yeah.
sexy way to do
Or
it as
just
well.
like, why are you so hot just doing the dishes? Like, I mean,
Exactly.
why are you like, this is like, I'm so glad I picked you. Like I want you. First thing when I think this morning, I was thinking about you. I woke up hard and I just wanted you on top of me. Like just sharing. I mean, those are all like planting seeds and taking her hand and inviting her into your world and in a healthy relationship, that's all going to be heard. And yeah, that's all the arousal.
Yeah.
I laugh at kind of this silly idea of foreplay. Like, men will sometimes think like, oh, I should go down on a woman for a really long time before I penetrate her so she's wet. If you go down on a woman when she's not aroused, it is ticklish, uncomfortable. You feel extremely self-conscious. Like you go down on a woman when she's really aroused and she'll be like, fuck yeah, like she'll have an
Yeah.
orgasm and she'll love it. But because that's not foreplay. It's what you said. It's the mind, it's the words, it's the desire you feel in this space that's communicated. And then you're wet and hard by the time you get to the bedroom. And
Of course. I think that then these are just small things that are, I think, they're actually so darn easy to do. They're actually not difficult to do. And I think it's, even for a lot of men, I think it's easy to just start talking like that and not be afraid about it. It's just something I think a
a
lot of
lot of
guys.
men don't have the words. A lot of men feel very like shy to talk about it, and most people, again, it wasn't modeled in their families. They didn't see their parents like grab each
Yeah.
other's butts or kiss each other, or they haven't had relationships where it's been safe to do that. So yeah, they just know like, oh, well, maybe I'll get lucky when the lights go out and I'll reach over and touch her boob, and then maybe she'll like have sex with me, and it's like this is not great sex.
It's not. Uh, it's not fun when you do it like that.
I
Um,
mean, it has a place, like maybe when you're younger and you're still figuring things out. But yeah,
yeah.
you want an adult man to really like know how to communicate, like hear your feelings as a woman. That creates a lot of safety. A man being able to say like, "Oh, okay, you're afraid. Like, let me sit here with you. Okay, you're angry. You have a right to be angry. I will do that different." And and to feel the woman's emotions and not have that be sort of going into another area, but it's coming to me to share that, if you can just be with a woman in that space, she's not saying like, I don't want to have sex with you because I'm angry or sad. She's saying, I want to go deeper with you. So let me tell you that I'm angry about this or sad about that. And if the man can be with that, like boom, she's gonna open up, and there's gonna be this really intense place that you get to explore on the other side of that. But some men go instantly into this story of like, oh, I'm being rejected, or like they
Yeah.
have this inability to tolerate a woman's emotions. And so I think men learning to communicate who they are, and men being able to really be with women. Like if you want sex with a woman, then you want a passionate woman, then she has to have all those emotions. So you can't just be with someone who's, she's going to be angry with you. Yeah, let her be angry with you and communicate it, and let her be sad, and then like have sex from that place. Like that's an incredible place.
Yeah, I had a previous episode here on the show. I called it Decoding the Woman. And there I went actually down on the topic of what a man has to do to get closer to the woman. I think one very simple thing is sort of, to your point, is when a woman is saying that she's angry, a lot of guys are caving or walking away or not confronting it, right? Whereas I think, or even when they start talking about something, a lot of guys, oh, now she's nagging again about something, or just starts talking. And now, one nice approach I'm trying to do quite on this is sort of asking the question: do you want me to listen to you? Do you want a hug? Or do you want me to fix something? Like more or less setting it like that, right? Depending on what the context is. But it's sort of staying more present with the woman, at least, not actually going away and just holding space for her in that sense.
Mhm.
I think a lot of men are just running away from those situations, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I think that approach can definitely work in certain situations, but I think that's also kind of a linear, and the masculine likes that kind of like, is it A, B, or C? But I think an even more powerful way is to just look her in the eyes, breathe with her. There's also a path that is not linear and it's not about communication, that it is about slowing down when she's feeling that, looking her in the eyes, being present with her, breathing it in, hearing it. Okay. Okay. And maybe there's some repeating back. I hear that you're angry with
Yeah.
me because I did not make you feel safe at that party because I was talking to that woman for so long.
Yeah, breathing. The breathing is a key element in everything.
And looking and breathing, and you don't have to talk and solve it. And then maybe you say, yeah, I don't want to upset you like that. That conversation didn't mean anything to me. I am deeply, and reaffirming what's true. I am deeply committed to you, and I don't want to do anything that hurts you. So you don't
Mm.
have to worry about that ever again. I mean, what great sex are you going to have after a conversation like that? And I think what's so fascinating is that our generation is learning to talk to our children like that and raise our children with that model where we
Mm.
get down at their eye level, we look at them, we breathe, we listen without this solution, we witness all their emotions, we validate it for them. Oh God, yeah, I would be sad too if somebody did that to me. Like, you know, and we
Yeah.
feel it with them. We experience that empathy. We meet them there. And then maybe there's some like, well, and then we tell our children like what's true too. Like, oh, what's true is like, I am here for you regardless, and you are completely safe. And I always want you to feel like you can talk to me because like there's no one I love more than you. And if we raise our children like this, they're going to go out and have adult relationships like this. And this is why sex and consciousness is going to keep compounding because the next generation is going to have
They will have
these.
even more. I mean, I've been mentioning my relationship with my son a few times here, and I think he's probably the guy or the person who triggers me the most right now in my life. And he's like a mirror of me when I was younger and all these things, I guess.
Uh-oh.
And a while back, I was sort of always going into it. Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Like really angry when I mean, kids can agitate you quite a bit, right?
Oh, heck yeah.
Uh,
The most.
the most, but or a long-term partner, I guess. But the one thing I've been doing with myself is sort of working a lot with, hey, I can see I'm getting triggered by him right now, and then I can
Mhm.
sit with that feeling and say, even if this is just microseconds in my head, I can take that deep breath that you talked about, and then I flip that around and tell him like, can you just walk me through how you were thinking right now? Something like
Mhm.
that, right? And I do that maybe 8 out of 10 times. So I'm definitely not 100%, but I would say that I'm roughly around 8 out of 10 times. I can control myself and make it a much more calm approach to him rather than exploding.
Mhm.
And as a result of that, he's been opening up a lot more to me on the other way around. So he comes to me a lot more now in a much
Mhm.
more gentle way. And he opens up and he shares thoughts, scares, wherever that might be,
Mhm.
which I feel very rewarded. It's a very rewarding feeling to get that from your son.
Oh, intimacy.
It is, but I mean, it's just, and you get the same thing in a long-term relationship if you do the same thing, and that goes back to what you said there, like in that scenario where you take that deep breath and you look your partner in the eye and say, "Hey, this is sort of, I'm here for you, and I'm sorry."
I want to know you deeper.
Yeah, and I think another word that a lot of people that I see, I think a lot of people, it goes back to actually what you said before, but you own your own orgasm. It's your responsibility, but it's also your responsibility to take care of you emotionally and all these things as well, not just sexually, right? And in
Mhm.
that, it also is about taking accountability. So if you do something wrong, own it and say, I'm sorry, right? So with my son, the 2 times I might flip on him, I still own that and say, hey, I am sorry that I bursted out on you, but it was because,
Mhm.
I mean, it triggered me like this, and I'm really sorry about that. And that
Yeah.
again shows that I can be accountable to him in that sense, that I actually own my own mistakes in that sense. And that
Yeah.
again helps just to create more safety for him, that even though it does happen, but if I, and when it does happen, I can be accountable for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that repair, and again, that our generation is doing with our children that I think most of us, most people our age you talk to, like, did your parents ever apologize to you for anything? Like, I don't remember ever my parents ever pulling me aside and being like, yeah, I really, and then, and I like
No.
to add to what you said, like reaffirming what's true. Like, I messed up and I yelled at you and I can't believe I said that. And I'm ashamed of myself. Is That's not how I want to treat you, because what is true is like, you're the most special person to me and I want to speak to you respectfully. I also want to be spoken respectfully too, and like creating in that moment and giving language to the world you want to live in with that, with your child, with your partner. Like, I find that is a full rebuild after a rupture. That is really a beautiful place to be in with our children and our partners.
Exactly, and I completely agree on that. And I think on the other part with our generation, I would say that I think parents are waiting for a thank you from their kids, and the kids are waiting for "I'm sorry" from your parents, and that's something that's never going to happen. It's sort of ironic
Well,
way to look at it.
I think it's funny. I've taught my kids to say, like, when I make food or when I buy food, like, I've taught them to say, like, thank you, mom, for buying this food. And it's just so fun to hear, like, well, he just turned 5, but my 4-year-old and my two, like, even my very little kids will be like, thank you, mom, so much for the burgers and fries. And I turn around and go, oh, you're welcome. Like, I'm like, wow, I've really made my needs known, that like, I need to be witnessed, that like, how I provide for you and my love for you and how it should, like, so I just think yeah, we can start doing this with kids at such a young age, and we can keep practicing this. And then, the graduate level degree, the highest level, is when you can do that with sex with a partner.
Of
And you
course.
can say, like, I'm feeling, so this way about sex, because what I'm really desiring with you is like this. And have those conversations in sex, is that's a very high level. So I hope that everyone listening will get there, but it just takes practice and like, and classes, hearing it modeled, like hearing you say it and how you talk to your
Mm.
son. And, like, I didn't just suddenly talk to my children like this or my partners like this. I learned this from other moms. I learned this from teachers. I had this modeled, and then I was like, oh, wow, that feels so good. It makes so much sense. Like, that's how I'm going to raise my kids, and that's how I'm going to operate in my relationship. But
And
we have to have it modeled.
it's a process, right? I mean, I like to say this thing that it's progress, not perfection. And I think it's sort of, you have to trial and error more or less and work on it. It's a continuous work you have to do, right, on yourself to get
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
So I have one more question here for you, around when people read your books, what do you most hope they understand beyond sexual technique?
Just that they embrace and love themselves and know that they're okay as they are, and whatever thoughts or feelings or desires or sexual orientation they have, that they're they're loved. They're in good company. They're seen. I think this has been the most moving thing for me to hear from people who have read things from me and have just said, like, wow, it really just transformed my relationship with myself. Just hearing you like talk about those things and voice those things, it increased their self love. So,
Oh, no, that's where we all want to get to. If everybody could have self-love in that sense and do that and go into relationships with, at least I would say, awareness around yourself,
mhm.
that's a good place to start, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you for joining, Lauren. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Today's conversation with Lauren reminds us that sexuality is not something we master, it is something we inhabit. Pleasure is not performance. Intimacy is not technique. Embodiment cannot be rushed. And perhaps the real shift begins when we stop trying to do it right and instead allow ourselves to feel what is actually true. If this conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who really needs to move on from knowledge to presence. And this is 34.0, where intimacy begins beneath the surface. Stay open, stay honest, and stay human.